Okay, thank you everyone for joining and giving some time to our user group. So as we are doing Splunk Enterprise Security things right now, we have in 3 to 4 session already, and we have couple of more remaining on that series. So today we are going to talk around notable events and threat intel. So threat intel is also uh, it's a very required part. So it's like we are going to how we are going to get feeds or information from outside the world, and we can use those things into our Splunk Enterprise, or you can say we have to correlate things happening outside the world with our internal system so that we can make sense out of it. And Meet is going to talk about, and he have some maybe there are a couple of free ways available in internet, so you can do like API key and all these things to integrate with your environment. I remember recorded feature is one of the good threat intel data feed we
Yep.
used to have. So now I can see there are a lot of, so you have to just integrate threat intel feeds to your environment, and based on that things happening in my environment right now based on the data we are getting from different machines, and we have to correlate that thing with three things happening outside the world. So if we get something which is common, okay, hey, this is a threat, and we can see this kind of issues in our logs, we can see in our systems, so we can at least avoid them. So this is how we are going to correlate our notable events with threat intent. So that said, so I will hand it over to Meet. So he will showcase how things works and how you can enable threat intel feeds in your systems or in your enterprise security. So over to you, Meet.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rohit. Let me share the screen. Let me know if this is visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Awesome. Let me just start this thing. Okay, so in the ES series, today is I think the third session on the notable and threat intelligence framework. Earlier to this, we had very first sessions on the overview, and the second being assets and identity framework, how we can configure and how it helps, in the day-to-day operations. Today, we'll go through the notable framework as well as the threat intelligence. I have one of the demo environment ready, and I'll showcase a demo as well on how we can configure the existing or the out of the box TI fields which are already there, or the IOC fields, and how we can configure new as well. So all right. Yeah, before we start, this is Meet. I'm working as industry consulting manager at Entity Data, and the one who has just introduced me was Rohit, working as senior associate, looking over the observability things at TIA. All right. So we'll go through a notable event framework, what that is, how we can manage and respond to the notable. We'll have a short introduction on the TI or the threat intelligence, how we can configure the custom IOCs for the same, and some of the best practices. Okay, now what is notable from the very first session? We have been talking about, and I have been mentioning that incident review dashboard is the main dashboard, and the end goal, more often than not, of the ES would be you have the notables which your SOC team can triage the incidents from. So notable, as the name or the word itself suggests, there is something notable happening in your environment. So you have millions and billions of events being ingested in your environment, and the with the help of ES and with the help of correlation searches, you are creating a notable. So when we say correlation searches, specifically that means that either from a single product, let's say just from the firewall, you're getting some of the use cases written, or you're actually correlating that with multiple other sources as well. So let's say XY Z thing is happening in your environment, followed by ABC event in 2 minutes, followed by let's say DEF event in 3 or 5 minutes. So if you are correlating all of this through a correlation search, and if you find out that hey, this is something looks interesting, of course, more often than not, it would be through schedule search only. You can always do with ad hoc or through REST API. We'll go through how we can raise a notable, but more often than not, what I would say, like 99% of the cases, the notable will be created from the saved search or scheduled search only. That means that you are writing something based on your data sources, and you are giving, just like we have the alert action as, let's say, email, or running some scripts, or creating a Jira ticket or ServiceNow incident. We can also have a notable generated that's as available as one of the adaptive response actions. So notable is nothing but an event which you want to be looked by either for your SOC team, or anyone from your org, or someone from the other team. So you can raise one, and as soon as it is created, it represents a potential security incident. And some of the key metadata that notable includes is the title, of course, what that notable is about, what's the severity and the urgency. So how urgently, or let's say if it is P1, P2, P3, that's in incident terminology. But in terms of, let's say, critical high or informational, at what urgency you want to raise that notable for. So that is also one of the metadata available over there. If you would have joined our previous session, we went through the priority field from the asset and identity lookup, and we discussed about how that priority field is actually important for a notable to have a proper urgency available. So yeah, that's one of the meta field, because if you have like 100, 200 notable, the SOC team also wants to understand which one to triage first. Let's say, because you will have a limited resource, human resource available, versus you can have a bunch of notable suddenly generated, let's say either through one use case or multiple use cases. So urgency is one of the key field, or the meta field that's always there. Time, of course, at what time that happened. So the time of the notable, the final event can only be one, or it can be of the latest event. Let's say if you are looking over three events from three different log sources in sequential fashion. Let's say your AD event, followed by your firewall event, followed by, let's say, some email event, or something. If you're looking over sequential, the time of the notable can be either the first or the last event. But at the time when the notable search, or sorry, the use case search runs, will be considered as the notable time, which of course there are some hacks if you want to update that time. But more often than not, your latest events time would be considered over there. Then it's the source, that is from which use case or from which correlation search this notable is triggered from. Then it can be like MITRE technique and tactic. That is, if you want to understand that in which phase this attack or this notable can fall under. If someone is just trying to get into the environment, or if someone is trying to have privilege access attempt in my environment, in which specific technique and tactic this one would fall under. It is also configurable, and it is one of the best practices as well. Because if you have multiple notable events, for example, you got let's say 4 or 5 notable events across the span of 4 hours from different use cases, you would be able to map that on your screen, on the monitor map, that hey, this is what something started at 3 o'clock, followed by something at 3:30, 3:45, and at the end at 4. this is the specific technique the attack is locking, or the metadata states that, and depending on the same, you can even update the urgency and so on. So these are some of the obvious or the basic meta fields available along with the notable. And yeah, as I was mentioning, it's nothing but an event. So it's not really a summary indexing event or something, but you can consider something like that, where from your existing events only, from your existing use cases only, it calculates something, and at the end, if something is notable, it will write an event in index equal to notable. And that's the predefined index. So if you're just installing Splunk core, you would not have that. But if you're installing the enterprise security, one of the prerequisites is to create the index definition for notable, threat activity, and so on your indexer cluster. So it is stored in index equal to notable. This potentially also means that if there are issues, although the ES is hosted, on the searched or a searcher cluster, only some of the components are required on the indexer cluster. But this also means that if there are issues in the indexer cluster, it will directly affect, just like any other log source or any other events, it will affect over here as well. So if you have some issues on one or more indexer, or probably on the entire indexer cluster, the SOC team would have issues looking over the incident review dashboard, and eventually triaging the incidents as well. So although ES as an app is installed on the search aid, just like any other log source, it the events are of course dependent on the indexer cluster as well. So that's one of the troubleshooting point as well. Let's say if someone complains that I'm not able to see any events, and if the entire group mentions that I'm not able to see any event also, you may want to first look over your indexer cluster as well, because at the end of the day, it is stored in index equal to notable. So that's on that. I'll go through a graph probably quickly, after which I'll show a demo. So this is something on the event filtering. So the security admin team, or in larger organization, there are some folks called as use case engineers, whose task is to day look over the threats or the new type of attacks being there in the world, and write down the use cases based on the same. So it can be in the smaller organization, your SOC team only, but does not matter, like security team or Splunk admin team or use case engineer, SOC engineers writes down the correlation searches, and it triggers, or that is configured to create a notable as an response action, as an adaptive response action. And there are existing DA and add-ons, that is TAs, available over there, which can also help. So that's on that. Then there are some out of the box lookups which are available. For example, incident review lookup, and whenever any notable is created, that is assigned, or an event is created in index equal to notable. So that, along with the lookups, are showcased over the incident review dashboard, where your analyst team will investigate, or start investigation based on the same. So there are bunch of dashboards available in ES out of the box, which can help your analyst team to troubleshoot, or to investigate the incident. And there are some of the other add-ons also available, which can help with the same. I'll showcase a demo, so that's it would be better understood. But this is the general flow, where we configure the correlation searches slash schedule searches, slash through ad hoc search as well. We can create the notable followed by mixing of some of the lookup and some of the other processes. The events are shown on the incident review dashboard. So that's the normal or the general flow. Okay, how we create a notable event. So as I was mentioning, 99% of the time it would be through correlation search only. You can also create through event actions option from the raw events, which I'll show. There is something called as pipe send alert custom command, which is there out of the box in Splunk ES, which can be used, and through REST API as well. You can configure or you can create a notable event. So that's brief on notable. Uh, okay, on the something more, I'll probably just jump onto the demo and I'll show. Okay, so this is a demo environment that I have available. Let me just refresh that. Okay, let me just create an incident dashboard. Okay, so if we see here, let me show the charts as well. Give me a minute, I'm not sure what's not to just close the other tabs. Bear with me for a second. Okay, I think this is working. Okay, awesome. So over here in the incident review dashboard, which is something the SOC would be monitoring, you can see multiple filters or the charts already available. One which shows the very important stats where in the environment in last 24 hours, how many notables have been created. So that's 181. And what's the stats on the the urgency of the notable. So there are, let's say, 10 critical, which should be triaged as soon as possible, followed by high, medium, low, and informational, which is just one. So that's the stats available over there. Now, what's the current status? So if it is closed or if it is in progress or it is triaged already, and so on. So that's something you can see over here. Then who all are the owners? So by default, it is unassigned, and this is also configurable. I'll showcase in a bit how we can configure the urgency or the the owner, the default owners over there, and the domain as well. So whatever notables are created in your environment, that's from what domain. So 98 or the 54 percentage of the notables are related to thread, followed by something in the network, and few from the access as well. So you can see those stats over here. And now if you see in ES 8.0, this look might a bit different, and there have been major changes. I would call it like breakthrough changes. I can say from 7.x to 8.x in ES. where they have updated the terminologies as well. So whatever we are calling as notable right now as a part of this session would be findings in this 8.0. But most of the customers, I'm not sure on the stats, but most of the customers are still on ES7.x, which is why we thought of having these sessions with 7.x only. I would assume like 70, more than 70-80% of the customers are still on 7.x and have not upgraded to 8, except if they are on the Splunk cloud. Okay, so that's the basic view. We can view the chart, you can hide the chart, you can show the filter, you can hide the filter. Earlier, the filters used to be like individual filters based on the urgency and so on. But right now, in even in the 7 version series only, earlier it was different. What they have updated now is just you can just search anything and just hit apply. So be it your some asset name or be it the title of the notable whatsoever, you can now search anything and everything and just hit apply. It will try to filter that out. Okay, and there can be some saved views as well. This is also the feature which was recently introduced. So there can be different views for this, and the auto refresh option is also, major request from the customers post which ES team implemented earlier, that there used to not be any automatic refresh. So if you are hosting this dashboard on, let's say, TV on your SOC room, this would not be refreshed automatically, which later on, the feature was introduced where you can just keep the auto refresh on. So you just host it on TV and it will update the dashboard and the charts and everything automatically. Okay, then as soon as a notable is created, this is something you would see. So this is the title of the same. So let's say there is a predefined search where if for a specific tactic, if the risk score increases XYZ, it creates a separate notable as well. So what it says is the threshold exceeded over previous 7 days for system, and this is the system name. So your asset or your identity event will also be showcased over here. And over here you can see what's the risk object, what's the risk score in last 24 hour, how many risk events have been there. This is clickable, we'll just click that in a minute. What's the type, what's the urgency, domain status, owner, which you can assign to someone else, and there are some adaptive response actions as well. So the AR action is not just what we defined as a part of correlation search alert actions, but this is also called as adaptive response action, where let's say if there is any correlation search which contains one IP address and you want to see additional data over the internet about that IP address, and you know that if I'm hitting this URL or if I'm hitting this webhook, I will get this data available. So you may choose to run that automatically like a script or something, but you may choose to have that available in the actions as well, which can manually be triggered. So a simple example in real life is you are creating a notable over here, but if your SOC analyst feels that this is something some other team should be looked upon, or this is something interesting or seems like a true positive, and they want to create a ServiceNow incident, so they may choose not to create ServiceNow incident for 181 notables, by default as a part of the alert detection, but they can choose having this adaptive response section available over here where it says create a ServiceNow incident. So unless and until your SOC analyst is not clicking on that, the incident will not be created. So such actions can also be, get available over here. Okay, something on the risk score. So if I'm clicking over here, and if you have attended one of our previous session, or if you have a bit of idea about what RBA is, this will show you a timeline on when the risk score was increased. So you can literally figure out that, hey, this is one of the use case because of which risk score of 30 was increased. This was another use case for the same asset. Now we are talking about this asset only, not this specific notable event. But now when we say risk event can be for an identity or for an asset. So now we can understand that for this host, there were other use cases as well, which increased a risk score of XYZ. So through a mouse scrolling, which I'm doing right now, you can update the timeline or the hour or the day over here. And over here you can even see the specific time along with the risk message and the risk score which contributed in that risk event. So this view is very nice, by the way. From the notable event itself, for this object, if I want to see what were the previous events, I don't have to go to security intelligence and risk analysis and then filter out the specific risk object. Rather, from here only, with a simple click, I can literally see the entire timeline and when the risk score were increased or decreased throughout the day or past few days. Then the miter tactic and technique. So if you have configured this, whatever is being shown over here is configurable. So let's say if you have configured that this can be one of the use case from this specific tactic. So let's say from the execution part and command and scripting interpreter, this use case may fall under. So let me just show you one of the uh, correlation search. So that's better understood. I just open one correlation search and share how we can configure the miter meta fields. So let's say create a new content and let's just try creating a correlation search. Okay, so over here you can write the search name or whatsoever over here. The description, the mode if you want to go manual or the guided, and if you see the annotations, these are different frameworks. So NIST, CIS, depending on the organization, what it follows. More often than not, MITRE is something everyone would follow along with all of this. So you can as soon as you click, you can see multiple technique and tactic ID from the entire framework. So as soon as you create a use case, you have to define that if this is triggered, which means that if this notable is in place, which technique and tactic it would fall under. So let's say if we say T1182, this would be linked with one of these techniques, and you can then see that this can be from the persistence stage or the initial access stage, and so on. So yeah, that's how you can configure the metadata for the MITRE. You can even apply how confident one should be on this use case. So let's say you can define your own range. Let's say 0 to 10, and you can say 8, 9. This is more on the use case engineer how they are confident, and this also depends on how many false positives are there in the environment. So if you feel that hey, I have 150 alerts daily, out of which none are true positive most of the time, you can just say confidence as 1 or 2 out of 10. But if you're sure that if this is triggering, let's say it can be related to one command. If this command is triggered from any of the production host, the confidence level of this being a critical notable event is high. So let's say you can just give confidence as 8 or 9. That is not shown over here, by the way, anywhere. This is just for the SOC analyst understanding how, with respect, because there can be 100, 200, 300 use cases in your environment. So one cannot remember the confidence for all. So you can mention that as one of the fields, that how confident you are when this use case triggers, how it should be actioned upon. Then analytics story, you can link this with one of the stories. You can mention the impact, and there are some other parameters which will not go through all right now. but all you have to do is just go over here, select notable over here, and provide the additional information. Now the host like this, if you see, this is the dynamic, or we can say variable in IT terminology, where this is not static. Until this, it can be a static option over here. So let's say you can provide the title that taste notable, and then in the dollar, just like we use that in the emails also, you can define your field name over here, which will be considered for the risk object. There are plenty of out of the box use cases available, which would have something like this, if you wanna refer. So yeah, that's on the title description. You have to define the domain as well. Just don't leave it as default, which is thread. You actually have to say if this use case is from the AD log source, or something from the authentication. It needs to be from the access. If it is something from the CrowdStrike or DLP or something, it needs to be from the endpoint domain, and so on. So define the security domain, and again the severity. So in the previous session, we highlighted the importance of the priority. So let's say how urgency is in years. If I open that game, okay. So if you see the severity was and the priority in the previous session for the assets and identity, we mentioned how this is important. Now in this session, we'll go through how this severity is important. So whatever you are seeing over here is what you will define over here. So even if your asset is critical asset, marked as critical asset, but if you are just leaving the notable severity as default, which is high, or if you are decreasing it by informational, the end urgency for this notable, let's say this is medium right now, and urgency can be even informational if you are just assigning the severity of your use case or the correlation search as informational only. So make sure, as much as this is important, the priority of your asset or identity, this severity is also equally important. How confident you are on the use case, and depending on the priority, what should be the end urgency for the notable. So make sure you are updating this as well. I have seen most of the folks just going everything with high, and at the end only this column will be considered. So you will never see any notable in your environment with informational or low. And what your SOC team will then complain is that we have everything either high, medium, or critical. We don't have anything low informational. So if they have 200 notables, they'll always struggle with figuring out which one to pick first. So this is very classic example, by the way, high severity and high priority, because that's what people always does. Keep static priority as high every time, and keep static severity as high every time. So always, if you open the incident review dashboard, the end urgency would always be high. Does not matter if it is executive's laptop being compromised, or some contractor's laptop being compromised, or someone from the IT or HR's laptop being compromised. Everything you will notice as high only. So whenever you are in the production enabling correlation search, make sure that the severity is something you always take care of. Okay, then I was mentioning about how we can configure the default owners, and so this is where we can do. So if you're sure that, let's say you have two or three teams that happens typically in the production environment, there is something called as DFIR team, digital forensics and incident response team. There is something called as SOC team. Now they are working in very different ways, and they can have your their own users which they want their notables to be by default tagged under. So you can even have the default owners for that. So right now, if you see, it's unassigned because it's not configured yet. You can, of course, you can leave that as system default, and it will not assign that. But if you get a request that if this use case trigger, you always have that assigned to this analyst or this service account or this person always from this day. So you can even define the owner as well, and the status. Someone may request that as soon as this is triggered, I am already running, let's say, some script in the environment, and already a service now incident would be triggered along with this notable. So don't just leave the status as new every time. Rather, you update that status as, let's say, in progress or pending, and so on. So the default status is also something very much useful. Now, this thing may sound, very common, or something people will not always be using, on which I also agree. Default owner and status is something not everyone uses all the time, but you should know as a Splunk admin or the ES admin that if someone comes to you that, hey, this is something I want, you should know that this is actually possible, or this is available as a feature in ES, where if for a particular correlation search, you can define the default owner or the default status out of the box. Then, of course, there are some drill down searches or drill down dashboards that you want to configure, and the identity and the asset extractions. So, these fields are something should be available or good to have to be available in your end search results, which will be extracted and showcased over here. If you see the additional detail of this incident, you can see what's the disposition, the original Splunk sources, which would be configured, and the since this is, I think, for the other type of the search, there are no major field. But if you see something involving, let's say, IP address, okay, this is good example. If this is IP address from the uh, asset lookup, by the way, which is again very important to configure. From the asset lookup, it will get this additional field. So if that is a PCA domain, is the antivirus is installed or not. So there is a field called requires ev, requires underscore ev, in the asset lookup, which if you are configuring, this would be, let's say, true or false depending on that value. But some of the fields value would be from the lookup, some will be from your result extractions as well. So make sure you are configuring that as well. Then the suggested next steps, if you want to configure, and the recommended actions. So there is something called as adaptive response action. Of course, you can just run it along with the notable event. But if you want to recommend some actions for an analyst to take, which means that if you want to leave a decision point to your SOC analyst, this is where you can just confirm. That means that this is not run along with this notable, but you can run that. So you can see that as soon as this notable was created, two things happened. You see the status as success. One notable was created, and the risk analysis was, or the risk score was also updated. Now there can be something as next steps, which are not defined, which you can define over here as well. This can be the run book, by the way, because it would be a general practice that the SOC team wants their Confluence page or their Wiki page to be available over here. So next step can be, click on this link or click on this run book and take the actions accordingly. So that's a text format you can have, and the recommended action can also be available over here. So if you are clicking that, some actions would be taken. Okay, so that's on the notable, how to create that. Now this dashboard, whatever you are saying, let's say you are saying this many fields, or if you are saying this many fields, uh, a SOC lead comes to you and says that I have this custom field which I would like to have that available over here. How would you do that? So there is something called as incident management, incident review settings. If you are going to that, you can actually configure the fields which are showcased over here. And by the way, you can create a notable short ID as well. Each notable will have ID like this. So if one wants to share with someone, let's say I want to share this notable with someone, I may not choose to copy paste this and share over there. Rather, I can just paste this event ID in the chat, where if the other guy just search that through that, yeah, he will be shown that specific notable only. And again, you can create a short ID. So as soon as you hit on that, some calculation or some script would run, and it will give you a short ID. So with this short ID only, the entire notable can be fetched from the environment. So all one has to do is just share this short ID with someone else. Okay, coming back to incident review setting, something called as incident review table and event attributes is available over here, and the dispositions are also available. So if you see some of the fields from here, let's say status or source should update, are available over here as well. So there are, I think, hundreds of fields available. So if your end result contains reason, it will be shown as reason over here. Or if it contains record underscore type, it will be showcased as record type in this table. And the good thing is this is configurable. So you can just hit on add field, and you can have your own field and the label over here. So if your search result contains, let's say, along with the uh, username, they also want to showcase that from which location this user or this engineer is from. So you can configure that location, for example, as the field from here. If this is available in your search result, which your correlation search gives you, it will be available over here as well. So again, this view is also configurable, and the disposition status as well. So there is a difference between the status, notable status, and the disposition status. So this can be like closed, but even if it is closed, what's the and dispositions. So if it was benign positive, it was false positive, it was true positive, what it was. Because typically when, and this is what most of the customer do, they will run a scheduled report, weekly report or something, and they will share it with the management every Friday. That from last Saturday to this Friday, this many incidents were there, out of which this many were true positive, this many were false positive, this many were benign. So you can even have your own disposition status available as well, if you want, but more often than not, this should suffice. Okay, so that's on that. Okay, I'll touch base on the notable suppression as well. Imagine a scenario where there was some maintenance on your AD server, and you have defined a correlation search which looks for the availability of the AD server. And as soon as your AD server is down, or as soon as user complains that they are not able to log in, a correlation search would hit. So if there was a scheduled maintenance on any of the server, or because of n number of reason, you can see flood of notables being generated. And once in a life you will encounter this situation. If you are working with any of the customer, they'll say, out of nowhere, or by mistake, there are 400 notables generated in my environment, and your SOC team would not like to see that 400 as a count over here. They actually want to see the actual number only, let's say 30, 40, 50, whatsoever. And you want to remove those 400. What best practice says, and this can be related to the compliance as well, by the way. So per some of the compliance, you should not be deleting anything like a notable or an incident or something. So that's where something called as notable suppression comes into the picture. So if you go to configure incident management, notable event suppression, what you can do is you can write down a search which filter out the events based on whatever condition you mention. And those search events, whatever it filter out, will not be shown over here. So let's say I want to say that from this use case, I don't want to see any notable events from last 7 days. Again, time is also important when you say suppression, because for the same use case, there can be some true events in the place, or true notables in the place. It's just that because of maintenance window of 2 hours, there were some false notable generated. So for that 2 hours only, you can create a suppression. You write down the name for the suppression, you mention the description, you mention the search. It will show you the search preview as well, and it will say that for what time you want to have this suppression available. So they use start time and the expiration time. Depending on that, those notables will not be shown in the incident review dashboard, but it will still be there in your index equal to notable. So you are also following the compliance where you are not deleting anything, but you are also not showing any of the incident in the incident review dashboard. So make sure never ever delete anything from index equal to notable, even with pipe delete command or so. Always use the notable suppression only. So yeah, that's something on the notable suppression, update the incident review dashboard, status configuration. Okay, interesting. This is also configurable, by the way, this status. So imagine a requirement where someone comes to you and says that my analyst should only be able to move the notable from in progress to close, or new to in progress. They should not be able to move back, which is from closed to in progress or in progress to new. That's something you want to have rights available for your ES admins only, or the SOC lead only, depending on the role whatsoever they have. This is also, this granular level detail, or the configuration is also possible in ES. So let's say these are the status available, and of course you can have your status as well. As I was mentioning, for the disposition, you can even have your own status, and you can configure the role assignment as well. So there is something called as transitions. So who can transit to this role? What we are saying is, from new to close, this folk should be able to just mark from new to close. From in progress to close, users with this role should be able to. So let's say, if someone says that from new to pending, only my analyst team should be able to do, no one else should be able to do that, or no one should be able to mark that back. So from close to in progress, no one should be able to do. So you can literally configure that as well over here. This is more to play around. I'm not showcasing each and everything over here. If you have ES environment, just feel free to play around with this small things as well. It's not just writing a search or something is only important. Knowing this thing as ES admin is as important as those things as well, about the notable suppression or the status configuration and so on. Okay, now with respecting the time as well, I'm just moving ahead with the threat intelligence. Okay, managing and responding to the notables, how we can do the last topic. From the incident review dashboard, you can just update the configurations from new to close. Typical workflow includes triage, you assign it to someone. You can perform the investigation as well. That's something we may require entire other session as well. But okay, let me just show you briefly. There is something called as investigations, where you can club multiple notable events, and you can showcase that as well. So typical workflow in the production environment includes, you trials that someone gets assigned, you perform the investigation, either you suppress or you escalate that by creating a ticket, and at the end you close that one. And you can even integrate that with the other AI actions, like creating a SOAR playbook or running a script or so. All right. I think investigation is not being popped out. All right. Let me move to the next for now. Okay, introduction to threat intelligence in Splunk. So, as Rohit was mentioning before, we started, there is something happening in the world. There are, n number of IPs being flagged as malicious across different IOC providers, and there are millions of events in your environment from your firewall or from your DLP or your endpoint whatsoever. You have a bunch of events over here, and in the world as well, in the real time, there are a bunch of IP addresses which are marked as malicious, which are flagged as doing some malicious activity in multiple environments. You actually want to monitor your environment in near real time and get a notification that if there is some IP address which is marked as malicious in Mendian field or in recorded future field, we want to have an alert that hey, this was the activity to this IP address from this IP address which is marked as malicious in our environment. So that's something we can do, and that's where the threat intelligence framework comes into the picture. It collects and normalizes the threat intelligence feeds or IOCs from the internet. It supports multiple formats as well. So taxi or STX format, it is supported, and it can be integrated with correlation searches and threat matching like threat activity framework. I'll show you a demo where this diagram could probably would be better understood. Let me just go to data enrichment, threat intelligence management, and parallelly let me also open threat activity. Okay, so if you go to configure data enrichment and threat intelligence management, you would see there are already feeds available over here which are disabled out of the box with ES. So you can see something like Alexa top 1 million sites or Cisco top 1 million sites. These are the actual IOCs, and if you see how that is fetched is from the S3 bucket. Now you can configure this TI to be available from anywhere from the world. So it can be based, let's say, if I say I want to have one taxi format feed available in my environment. So you have to mention what's the URL along with, let's say, or to token or so. You can you can perform some parsing. If it's not parsed, there is something called as auto as well, which will take care of the things. And more often than not, you'll be using that auto only. And there are some advanced parameters available. Okay, so let me do one thing. I'll just show you one lookup first, which is called as IP underscore Intel. And before that, I will showcase you the threat matching. Okay, uh, consider this these two hands. On the left side, I have my thread source available, and on the right side, I have my real environments data available, and I want to match this two. So this is the left side of the part where we are fetching the IOC information. Let's say we are fetching millions of IP address in our environment, which are flagged as malicious. On the right side, how it would work is based on the data model. Again, if you remember our first session, we mentioned that data model is the heart of enterprise security. So if you have configured your log sources properly, and if you have configured your data source or the data model, sorry, properly, you should not have any issues in enabling the threat intelligence module. It can be, probably just 30-40 minutes of the job only. What you have to do is, let's say we'll pick one field called test field. What this says is Pick network resolution data model, this DNS object, and whatever is there available as answer field. So answer is one of the field of the DNS data model or the network resolution data model. Pick this field and match that continuously on a real-time basis with all of the threat intelligence feed. Let me repeat that. On one side, on the left hand side, you are fetching all of your feeds. Now comes the right side of the part, which is your real time data or your actual log sources or your event data. Now, what can happen? Let me just give me 1 minute. Okay. What can happen over here is from the all traffic, let's say from the network traffic, all traffic dot test can be there, which is similar to an IP address or the test field over here. So it does not matter web dot test or IDS attacks dot test or all traffic dot test. You can have all of your log sources ingesting data in the data model. Ingesting might not be the right word, but you can whitelist through the event types and tags and make sure that these fields are populated properly. If that is correct, and if your feeds are also correct, you will see something like this in your threat activity dashboard, where it will say that let's say in last 24 hours this many matches were there. For example, at this particular time at 11:50, from this field from IDS attack.src, this was one of the value which is marked as malicious in I'll tell you in okay, let me go over here as well. Okay, in the IP underscore Intel, and you can even see that in which feed it was marked as malicious. So in your real data, from your live data, there were some Symantec events which states that there was some activity on this particular IP address from this address. Now this IP is marked as malicious in one of your feeds or thread group. Actually, this should be the name of the this feed, the feed itself. But somehow I think it's coming as undefined right now. But you will get an information that there was activity from here to here or here to here, and one of the IP address is marked as malicious, and this threat intelligence works on a real time basis in the environment. All right. So it is not that after 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you should see the events. As soon as the data model has the events available or the events whitelisted, it will start working. And for any of the million IP address or thousands of IP address, it will match this continuously. Now, where the IP address information is stored, so that's in the underscore Intel lookup. So if you have IPs configured, again there can be different type of Intel as well. By the way, there can be file hash Intel, where let's say there can be IOC provider which will give you the information on what all malicious files are being distributed in the world. So let's say if you're getting one email where it says, your bank statement, if you're trying to download and open that, it can be a malicious file. Now the hash of the file can be provided by some of the IOCs, and you can configure that in Splunk. So if you are having email data in as one of the log source, you will have that hash file, whatever user downloads or whatever user gets, and on the other side your thread field will give you that same hash as well. These two can be matched on a near real time basis, and you can get an alert that some file hash which are marked as malicious, there is some activity in your environment. So does not matter from which log source you enable, it will always fall into one of the underscore Intel lookups. IP address obviously will go to IP underscore Intel. Email can be email underscore Intel, or it can be certificate underscore Intel. If you want to see all, you can just go through lookup definitions, and just search for underscore Intel over here, and you would be able to see all of the underscore Intel files, so certificate, email file, HTTP, IP, and so on. So and this is the thread key, which is nothing but your thread source or the feed name over here. So let me just do threads count by thread underscore key. So I can see that there are two thread feeds which are enabled over here, probably somewhere from here. It's enabled, and it is feeding the data under IP underscore intent. So IBM X Force or True Star and Splunk ES thread activity. Okay, now let me just enable a few sources as a part of this demo and see if the lookup gets updated or not. Yeah, you see there are now additional feeds being fetched from this. Now if you see emerging threads IP block list, we just enable that, and it got that information from this txt file. It just hit that endpoint, it got that back, and it updated the lookup like this. So this would be like a modular input, I would say, where you can define an interval, how frequently you want that feeds to be available, and it also depends on your thread feed provider. Again, by the way, this can be open source thread feeds. These are open source, which is freely available, but something called recorded feature or Google Mediant, you can even pay them to share the additional feeds or the genuine feeds or the latest and greatest feeds in your environment, and you can configure that to be available every hour. So every 1 hour it will fetch all of the malicious IP address detail, and it will just update this lookup, and as soon as that information, as soon as this lookup is updated, this will also get matched with your real-time data, and you can see that in threat activity. So yeah, this is how you enable that, and on the other side, on your real-time data or your log source side, you have to configure your data models to have the fields available properly. uh, this is configurable, by the way. So if you have your custom data model, you can add a data set. So let's say if you have your custom data model where you know that there are some IP address information available for this particular field, and you want to add, just click on add data set, select the data model, select the object, match the field, and there you go, it will start monitoring that as well. But more often than not, or probably in my experience, I have never seen anyone updating this. If you expand this, you can even see the search. More often than not, I have never seen anyone updating this field, and you should keep this default, just leave it as it is. Don't much play around with this. This is just for your understanding, or if you have custom data models in your environment, how you can have those field monitor as well. If you don't have any other use case, don't touch this side, only touch the sources only, and make sure your data model fields are properly available. Now, one of the other use case I have seen is not just the external IP address, because this will always have the external IP address information. If you see that over here, all of these are external IP address, which pretty much makes sense. Some organizations also want to monitor their internal traffic as well, and the classic example is again AD server. No one would have access to the AD server except few IT team members. Even for entire IT team will not have access. Only 5 or 6 IP address would be whitelisted to have that SSH connection or the RDP connection if in Windows, but no one will have that connection. Now you want to monitor traffic on the AD server as well within my environment. How many users or how many IP address is trying to get a connection over there, because that's a genuine use case. If someone gets access to one of the hosts in your environment or one of the VMs in the production environment, they may try to get the AD level access if the IP address information is available. So you want to monitor that scenario as well. So not just the external traffic which is being there in your organization from your production or from your employee systems to the AD machine RDP traffic as well, you want to monitor. So this is where the internal IP address would come. And no fade, of course, it goes without saying, no IOCs will give you the information on the internal IP address, because that's your internal, your org level internal IP address range on the sub range. So what you can do is you can actually create a lookup, and you can have that available over here. And if you don't want, there is something called as local IP intel lookup available, which will not have any of the data. So if you want any of the custom IP addresses to be monitored, or if you want your internal IP addresses also to be monitored, just update this lookup. It will also start matching with your real-time data. So if you have internal firewall, or let's say DLP data available, and if someone tries to RDP, and if you have mentioned that AD IP over here, you'll get an alert that someone is trying to get access to this machine from this IP address, and you can even see that available over here as well. Now, some of the other panels, it will show the number of activity over time, most active threat collections. More often than not, it would be again IP Intel only, but there can be like certificate Intel, file Intel, email Intel as well, and the most active sources as well. So from all of the sources that you have enabled, you can see that which are, or which all sources are most active in your environment. And from that you can even get an idea that, hey, if I have subscribed to two IOC feeds, maintained as well as RF, but more often than not, the IP addresses are being matched from the maintained only, from recorded features only. So that's where you can even see the most active threat source, and this is the most important panel, where you can see at what exact time which source type had that information, and what was the IP address which was flagged in the environment. So yeah, this is something on the thread feeds. Okay, how to configure custom IOCs. That's something I mentioned. Prepare IOC data, ingest that in Splunk, normalize. So you can either choose to have the feed directly available, through API call, or something from the S3 zip file, or something in a proper format, or you can have that feed ingested in Splunk, let's say in raw format or through heavy forwarder, or whatsoever, and you can configure a lookup through a save search, and have that lookup available over here. So you can just have a local IP Intel available, or you just update the out of the box local IP Intel for that use case. So yeah, you can either ingest and normalize, or you can have that lookup available, and yeah, it correlates things automatically, and you just have to monitor and manage. Again, this threat intelligence management also has one of the correlation search, which says that threat activity was detected in the environment. That's one of the title of the notable. So as soon as you enable that, you can even see some of the events in the incident review as well. As soon as there is a match over here in the threat activity, it will also generate a notable. You can choose to disable that as well. So yeah, that's on that. And last but not the least, the best practice on the notable and the threat intelligence. Mix and match the notable with RBA. RBA is something we are planning to go in the next session. But there is something called risk-based alerting, where you are correlating multiple events, and there is something called as notable, which we went through. So it's not that you only have to use RBA or you solely have to rely upon RBA or notable. Always create a notable. You should always do a mix and match of both the concepts. Then regularly review the correlation searches. Uh, I'll tell you, like, m- mostly, as far as I have seen the environments, 80 percentage of the notable will be from the 20 or 30 percentage of the use case only. But that does not mean that 70 percentage of the other correlation searches are useless. But you still have to regularly review and tune the correlation searches. A simple issue can be, let's say, that field itself is not being ingested now. You have written a correlation search with src field, and then it's src underscore ip field available. So you will never get a notable from that correlation search. So regularly review the correlation searches as well. Validate and curate the threat intel feed. So you can regularly review from the threat activity dashboard that which are the most active feeds, or which are the ones from which I have never seen any threat activity from, and you can choose to tune that as well, and use the adaptive responses to automate some of the enrichment. A classic example, which I think I mentioned in one of our other session, is as soon as uh, IP address is detected in the threat activity. For example, this IP address was detected. I have seen customers running a SOAR playbook, and they are just updating their firewall rules and blocking this IP address. So they are not waiting for a notable to be created or an analyst to look over. Of course, that can be done and manual review can be in place, but you can even choose to run SOAR playbooks and block this IP address altogether. So along with the notable as well as with the threat intelligence as well, you can have the source available to automate the enrichment. And yeah, that's something it. I'll leave the last 10 minutes for the questions if there are any. And thank you. Thank you so much.